Since the fall, I have stood at this lectern every month to voice my opposition and our opposition to the board's minimum reserve policy of 27% of our total expenditures. Not to reject it outright, but to ask that they reconsider what is an appropriate amount. My comments as your representative have been repeatedly pushed aside, and so tonight I wish instead to address you, the educators of Reed Union. In the moments before their decision last month, a trustee asked, "Are we sure that we are comfortable with this number?" And one by one, the board replied, quote, "I am comfortable with this decision because it was so well thought out." And quote, "Yes, I think we were really thoughtful." So now I would like to ask you, were they thinking of us when they chose to lock away $8.2 million and by doing so, only allowed the district's bargaining team to authorize 1.5% above COLA? A razor-thin margin that threatens to evaporate as markets plunge and the specter of rapid inflation looms ever larger. I would like to believe that those were not their thoughts exactly. This school board was elected to serve in the public trust for all stakeholders. Some of them were even endorsed by our organization. And as they return home tonight, they enjoy the privilege of remaining comfortable in their decision, a luxury most of us do not share. So, we need to ask ourselves, who on this board represents our interests? I think that there are more of us who replied that they were ready to stand up and protest outside open houses this year than were willing to attend this meeting tonight, and that speaks volumes. I think they understand that their comments would be pushed aside as mine have been in the past and fall on deaf ears. We all know where this current path leads. If the board digs in, our educators will organize, take to the streets, and the trust upon which community is built becomes further eroded. And the real tragedy of this is that they could, and they still can, make a different choice. This policy was adopted by a single board vote, and it can be amended with a single vote. And the fact is there are sufficient resources in this district to do both, to establish a minimum reserve around 20%, and still meet us in the middle of our current positions. This should come as no surprise, as this was exactly what we asked for at the end of bargaining 2 years ago, when we made clear that the job was still not done, and the board has had 2 years to prepare.
3 minutes.
In their policy decision, I think the board acted out of fear. What if disaster strikes? What if property taxes drop? But they ignore the disaster befalling this profession right now. And yet, if God forbid, if and when disaster comes, we will be there, opening our homes to students, donating food and clothing, teaching on Zoom, just like we did 4 years ago. We don't need to speculate.